Over the past several weeks, not only has Kanye West posted anti-Semitic remarks about how he is going to go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, but he has also gone on a tirade criticizing Jewish people with countless hateful remarks rooted in age-old anti-Semitic tropes about Jewish wealth, success, and influence. It is ironic that Kanye, who 2 weeks ago was himself a wealthy, successful billionaire, and yet decided to criticize other people for what he deemed to be an apparent sin of being too successful and wealthy. And yeah, it is ironic that Kanye, who has more than 31 million followers on Twitter and more than 18 million followers on Instagram, for a total following of 49 million, chose to criticize Jews for allegedly being too influential, although the entire population of Jews worldwide is only 14.8 million, 7.5 million of which are in America, and Jews only comprise 2.4% of the population in America and only 0.2% of the population globally. Setting aside the sheer irony of these hateful statements, let's talk about why these remarks by Kanye are not just anti-Semitic, hateful, wrong, and dangerous to the Jews, but those statements are actually damaging to the global community at large, including Jews and non-Jews alike. And they are also counterproductive to Kanye's self-proclaimed goals and agenda. First, statements that Jews control things like the media, Hollywood, or banks are incredibly dangerous statements that have been used throughout history to incite baseless violence against Jews. For example, the Nazis published false propaganda using age-old anti-Semitic lies and stereotypes of the same exact nature to dehumanize Jewish people and blame them for all of Germany's problems. That propaganda was used by Hitler and the German government to distract the German population from real issues with their government and their society. Statements like these merely aim to dehumanize and villainize Jews and to turn them into scapegoats so that the rest of the world can avoid having to put in all the hard work of actually reflecting on and fixing the actual systemic problems underlying their society or government. Which problems are actually rooted in the activities conducted by all of the various people in the world from all different races, religions, ethnicities, nationalities, and backgrounds. When Kanye uses Jews as scapegoats, he overlooks the fact that the world's problems actually result from more fundamental cultural issues that stem from every single individual person's acts or negligence, including his own, and not just the actions of the Jewish people on our own. By pushing a narrative that overlooks that fact, it prevents any real resolution of the actual problems in the world by inadvertently turning a blind eye on the true root of the problem and trying to excuse or mask those real-world problems under the guise of some simplified Jewish problem, which thus enables real-world problems not only to persist, but to grow bigger. They say history repeats itself, and we have seen the narrative of people turning Jews into scapegoats to be blamed for the entire world's problems over and over and over again, which has only led to genocide, and ultimately such anti-Semitism trickles down into racism against other minority groups like Hispanics, Arabs, Asian people, and yes, you guessed it, Black people. Kanye, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there aren't some Jews in the world in positions of power who have abused their power, just like there are some non-Jews in the world in positions of wealth, power, and influence who have abused their power, which in my opinion includes you, Kanye. And yes, I have no doubt that some of those Jews and non-Jews alike work in media, but a lot, yes, Kanye, I mean a lot, of Jews are good people who use positions of power to help others and to make positive contributions to society. And a lot of those good Jews also work in media. Not to mention that a lot of Jews don't even have the level of wealth, power, or influence that you attribute to the Jewish people. Like myself, who was born to a poor Jewish family, didn't always know where my next meal was coming from, and didn't even have a bed to sleep in as a child. Should I be villainized because I'm now a lawyer who has built a life for myself? Kanye, you yourself acknowledge that there are positive things about the Jewish culture that you admire.
Also, I'm envious of the Jewish people. I'm envious of how they don't abort their children. I'm envious of how they don't shoot each other in the streets and then rap about it. I'm envious of how their families stay together. I'm envious that they turn their phones off on Friday night and the family comes together. I'm envious of how they do the business together.
Getting mad at the fact that you see many successful Jewish people is illogical and counterproductive to our society's well-being. The success of the Jewish people is not necessarily a bad thing because much of our success has been a benefit or a boon to society. There is a lot in the Jewish culture and faith that has been known to breed success. Jews have a rich heritage of reading, promoting education, and developing critical thinking skills early on in their children's lives. Jews also tend to have a pretty hands-on approach to parenting. Obviously, there's exceptions to that, but generally that's what you see in the community. We create jobs, we help build the economy, we innovate, we contribute to society, we protect civil rights, and we do a lot more good for the world in addition to that. Jews pull from our history to teach and prepare our children on how to overcome life obstacles. Lessons like these help Jewish children to develop a can-do attitude, which in turn helps to breed success. Jews also developed one of the first ever codified sets of laws or rules about how to maintain a just society, which is known as the Talmud. Talmudic law is actually a foundation for modern-day common law systems that you see in the UK and America. It has inspired systems of law and order across the world to allow our societies to live in peace. Before these common law systems came into existence, the world was filled with kingdoms, clans, and tribes who would just rape, pillage, murder, and go to war with one another. These are just a few examples of the thousands of ways in which the Jewish people and our culture contribute positive ideas to benefit society at large. Kanye, regardless of whether or not you mean to incite violence against Jews, history has shown us that when people spread hateful anti-Semitic words of this nature, it incites violence and murder against Jews as a collective people. The risk of inciting violence is magnified when the speaker who shares these hateful words has a massive following, fan base, power, and influence.
My words demand more sensitivity for the frequency that I'm operating at and and the amount of people that I'm communicating to. And I take that responsibility.
Kanye, you have almost 50 million followers across 2 platforms, and you have the power to incite a tremendous amount of hate and violence against the Jews, whether you mean to incite violence or not. I agree with you. Words do matter, especially when you have a platform of the size that you do, and you can reach the number of hearts of the people that listen to you. You call yourself a man of God. A man of God would not make conclusory statements about an entire people that incites violence and risks the lives and well-being of millions of those people worldwide, based solely on some negative encounters you've had with just a small subset of those people. A man of God who has the size platform that you have wouldn't just say that words matter, but would actually internalize that concept and be careful of the way your words affect or harm an entire people. A man of God would understand that God created the Jewish people and Jewish culture because there are positive contributions that God intends for the Jews to make in this world, just as he created any other group of people in this world because there are separate but equally important positive contributions that he intends for those other groups of people to make in this world. A man of God would understand that with great power comes great responsibility. God has given you tremendous power, Kanye, so you have a responsibility to be thoughtful with your words and not to make generalizations or hateful remarks that will risk millions of people's lives who have the power and desire to do good in this world.
God wants me to get to the world. And when I'm in my way, if God has set something on me, when I'm in my way, I'm in God's way. Now, I can point at other people and say, hey, you guys are in God's way because you're not listening to me. But if I'm in my way, I'm not listening to God.
So yes, Kanye, it seems you are getting in your own way because by inciting hate against Jews, you risk millions of lives that God has put on this earth in his ultimate design. You risk losing an entire people and a culture that has made incredible contributions to this world and who will continue to make more and more positive contributions so long as the world doesn't allow them to be exterminated. So let's get this straight. It is not a sin for Jewish people to be successful, and it does not serve God to attack an entire people for their success, especially when much of the success of the Jews has helped to make the world a better place. But I will agree that it is a sin for anyone, whether Jew or non-Jew, to use their success in a way that causes harm to others. For anyone like that, we should certainly hold them individually accountable in a non-violent way as an individual person, and not as someone who is somehow representative of their entire people. Kanye, if a Christian person or multiple separate Christian people in a position of power wronged you, as I'm sure many have, you don't all of a sudden conclude that all Christians worldwide are colluding in some conspiracy to abuse power and harm others. So why is that the conclusion you jump to when it is a Jew instead of a Christian? Some people have called Kanye Hitler, but I don't think it's fair to call Kanye Hitler because that would diminish the atrocities that Hitler himself actually committed. But what I will say is that Kanye is reckless, negligent, and severely misguided. Kanye, you would better serve God if rather than alienating, attacking, villainizing, and inciting violence against Jews, the majority of which are actually good people who want to make the world a better place, you instead tried to team up with those good people in the world, both Jews and non-Jews, and appeal to their goodness in a collective effort to address the evil in this world that we see from both Jews and non-Jews. I'll tell you what, most Jews are good people, and we are ashamed of the subset of Jews who give us a bad name and do bad things. They are not representative of us as a collective people, just like most non-Jews are good people and are likely ashamed of the subset of non-Jews who give their people a bad name and who do bad things. Unfortunately, the sad reality of the world is that cultural pressures or norms cause people in general, not just Jews, but all people worldwide, to be money-hungry consumers, and we live in a culture where wealth, power, and fame corrupts many people of all different backgrounds, races, religions, ethnicities, and nationalities. This is not a concept that is unique to Jews, but it is a global pandemic. In Judaism, there is a concept of knowledge being symbolized through the flame of a candle. A candle can share its flame with the next candle and help brighten the next candle, but the first candle's flame will still shine as brightly and will not be diminished. But if you extinguish that first candle's flame before it can be shared, you risk losing that light and losing the ability for that candle to share its light with the other candles around it. Jews have a lot of knowledge and positive teachings that can help many people and contribute a lot of good to this world. When Jews and non-Jews work together, we share ideas and we share the flames of our candles with one another, which makes the world glow brighter and more filled with light. But when you condemn Jews and incite violence that risks the murder and genocide of Jews, it is as if you are blowing out the flames of those Jewish candles that actually shine brightly. When you extinguish those flames, they don't have the ability to share their knowledge with the non-Jews in this world, which does a disservice also to non-Jews and the global community. I'm sure we can all agree that in a world filled with darkness, as a global community, we can use all of the light that we can get in this world.
But I feel that there's an important, the sons of Abraham, however we want to word it, right? For us to come together and bring our different talents together to serve God collectively. And he, as much of an alien as I am, he did not call for me to alienate. I wanted to defend my freedom of speech. I wanted this. But even with freedom of speech, pain is pain. Causing people to hurt is not helping. Causing people to hurt is not helping. So that means I have to take a more sophisticated approach to engineering this problem.
But I can tell you're a man that has love in his heart, and I hear that. I hear it through the words explicitly and implicitly. And I think if we're to engineer a better future, the way to do that is with love.
It's raining outside right now, but I just wanted to end this video by saying this isn't the typical content I post here on my channel, but if you would like to support my channel, you can either go ahead and watch this video or other videos I've posted on my channel, or you can be sure to share this video and subscribe to my channel down below. Thank you guys all so much for watching.